Climbers, on this episode, you're going to want to pay attention. We're going to be going deep dive with Dave Fenley, indie artist who was a semifinalist on America's Got Talent, top 10 in voice, and has turned that exposure into a business. And we're going to talk about exactly how he did that. So pay attention. He's your new messiah. Welcome to the club. And this is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business because, like our guest here, Dave Fenley, leverage is what you're going to need to work with the people that you want to work with. It's not just about your raw talent. That's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. Oh, it's so simple. That's a backstory from my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who is a hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Got a couple number ones in Southern Gospel in the last few years, top 10 in Australia last few months. And he just keeps making miracles happen. But what I love about Brent is that he helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then he regularly gives you the opportunity to connect with the pros and make relationships, and relationships are made. I think that's important to add in there. You can find Brent at songwritingpro.com. Solly Polabic. Oh, whoa. How you doing, brother? Oh, uh-huh. It's got brawn and velvet brawn. We could call him velvet gravel butter. Right on. I mean, hey, I love his voice. I love his voice. You know, Janelle turned me on to our guest today, and but when I got to meet him, I got to know him through a mutual friend of ours, Brent Michael Wood, that you met when were over in Denmark, and he's besties with Brent. He goes back 20 years, and just the story behind it and what he did is, I mean, when I first met him, I'm like, dude, you got to be on the podcast. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you have to tell this story. Like, all of our community needs to know like how he did this and the thought process that he had, because guess what? You know, let me save you the suspense. It's been what we've been preaching for the last 7 years. So, oh my God, imagine that. Uh, and yeah, so that's good. So last night we end up at, so Janelle introduced Brent Michael Wood to his now girlfriend, and things are going swimmingly. And there was a surprise birthday party. We were all at this restaurant called Geist in Germantown, and I was sitting next to Dave, and he's like, "Hey, man, you still want to do that podcast? I got a new project coming out." I'm like, "Yes, I do. Absolutely." So before we get to him, though, let's take care of a little business. Join the Climb community on Facebook. Easy to get to. It's facebook.com/groups/the Climb community. You have to ask to be let in, but we let everybody in. And hey, the feed is for everybody. If you spam the feed, I don't even ask questions anymore. I don't even give second chances. I'm like, you're out. Like, we got plenty of places for you to put your new music. We got plenty of places for you to put where your gigs are going to happen. We got plenty of places for you to talk about your wins, which is every post on Wednesday, right? So, Brent, let's share some love. What's going on with the wins and the climbers out there? Thank you, Sunday. Thank you, SJ. And she's been doing fantastic at it, by the way. Yeah. Yeah. Because we suck. But she's a golden goddess and we suck. Yes. That's it. First of all, that is a very, very exclusive club, right? Like, how many friends? First of all, just how many friends do you have, Sonny Joe, that have had a song passed on by the Oak Ridge Boys? Yeah. Yep. Good job, SJ. What? Doug's back. I love that. He's back. Hmm. Oh, Hanlon. He's crazy. I don't know. We'll see if he comes back. There we go. All right. So make sure that you follow the podcast or subscribe to it where however you consume your podcast. And most importantly, tell a friend about it. I mean, listen, it's 50% true if it comes from us. It's 100% true if it comes from you. People are listening to this stuff all the time. They do it for a reason. It's not because they're on some outreach program to make Johnny and Brent feel good about themselves. There's something in it for them, man. So whatever it is for you, share that with somebody else, and we'll keep growing this community. I mean, I'm pretty proud of the strong but and small but mighty uh, climb community on Facebook. We're getting close to 1,600, which is cool. So let's bring our guest on. Once again, this is AGT, America's Got Talent semifinalist, and he went on to The Voice as well. After America's Got Talent on season 15, he was a top 10 finalist. He toured for 3 years with Miranda Lambert. It's got a great story about the what I call the law of rock and roll in Madison Square Garden, opening up for Miranda. We'll touch base on that. And really, what I like about this, the man has got a business brain too. And when people start talking about marketing, my nipples get hard. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Dave Fenley. Dave. Thank you for saying yes, buddy. Thanks for coming on. I know. I wouldn't say relentless, but just under that. So, Dave, before we kind of get in, tell us a little bit about your story, man, because I think everybody's going to relate to this, and talk about that what you were talking about before. I said, no, stop. We gotta press record before you tell this story. So just kind of start at the beginning, how you got to Nashville and everything, and then we'll get into what you saw and how you unpacked these opportunities that you got and turned them into cash flow and a living. Eh, country radio seminar. Yeah, and they're kissing ass on the program directors, try to get them back on, keep on the radio, either stay on the radio or get on the radio. Massive. Well, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So here you go. Coming out, we're leading off with the beatbox, right? Nice. Yes. Right at my bone. And you're like, my name's Dave. What's your name? Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. That really like that really sounds like a Hollywood freaking script, man. Dave's like, I beg to differ. Yeah. So tell okay, so one of the things we've mentioned on the show before is there's Murphy's Law, which states that whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And then there's a law of rock and roll, which states that Murphy completely underestimated the problem. So, on that note, can you talk about? I mean, Madison Square Garden is a artist's that's a mecca, right? That's a bucket list. That's a so. Can you just quickly tell that story, and then we're going to get into some of this other stuff here. Mhm. Oh, effed up face. What else could go wrong? Oh my god. Oh yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. You're like, who is this? Who is this asshole? It's right on. That's awesome. So, okay, so take us to America's Got Talent, and then like I want to sort of have that conversation, respin the conversation we had last night at dinner. And what you learned from that, and then how you felt after AGT, and then take us forward um to The Voice, and then I want to talk about like what you did for The Voice, because I think that was the first conversation we had when we first met, and that's the money right there. That's the money. Yeah. Howard was not impressed. He's like, the only thing that made those songs work was Mel B and the girls. From Howard Stern's perspective, you know what I mean? Mhm. Well, you don't have to remember me, but you got to pay more now. Just that, yeah. Yes. Yep. Yeah. But for now you did it on your terms, which is cool because I mean, there's a lesson in here too. Because I remember hearing Paula Abdul talk about American Idol and what she used to tell everybody during like one of her first speeches during Hollywood Week when they get through all the auditions and now everybody's in Hollywood, the stakes are raised, it's a big deal. And she's like, here's what you need to know. Three things you need to know about American Idol. Number one, it's a TV show. Number two, it's a TV show. Number three, you might get to sing on a TV show. You know what I mean? And so that is about the story. That's about the drama. It's got nothing to do with your singing and understand that. Right. And so it's fascinating that you're like, nah, I'm going to do it this way. And they're like, okay, I mean, we'll let you do that. Like, we don't care, but you did it on your terms. And I love that. I mean, that took balls. Mhm. Yeah. Which one of those three do you like? Yeah. You're NBC. I have faith in you. Mhm, mhm, it was brand consonant. It was on brand for Dave Fenley. Yeah. Yeah, so by the way, first of all, number one, genius, right? That you, I mean, I've talked to so many, I've had, Daredevil artists, you know, get pitched by AGT or by The Voice, and it's like they think that's the end all be all, right? They think they're gonna get famous, and it's like, no, this is like a whole lot of exposure, right? And we had Brent a couple episodes ago, we had the, exposure or market penetration, right? And market penetration is what breaks artists. And market penetration comes from a lot of exposure, but unless you have something repetitive, something consistent, something that keeps coming out, then the exposure, it won't matter. I mean, you know what I mean? Like Dave and I were talking about this last night. You get on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, awesome. Maybe you get, Rolling Stone's like circling the drain, let's be honest, okay? But maybe you get 20,000 streams, you get a nice little bump, because everybody's like, who's this person? And they go and they check it out. But then next week there's something different and it's over, and they're going to forget about you unless you're continuing to do to be consistent and to stay in front of their face. And we use the example on market penetration versus exposure of Guns N' Roses. This is still the band with the largest selling debut record of all time in the history of the music business, but it was a stiff the first year, and they went out on tour with Aerosmith, but they didn't have any market penetration. They weren't on the radio, they weren't on MTV. And so that tour, being in front of all those people, which if it wasn't number one in the country, it was one of the top three tours financially speaking. That was worth 60,000 albums. Yeah. Yep. That didn't get him the house on the hill, right? That didn't get him the house on the hill and the big Bentley, the gold Bentley. So what I love, Dave, is that you took and so I want to mention this, and you guys, you check me on this, okay? But if you go check out Dave Fenley's Spotify right now, 582,000 monthly listeners. Now, I dare you to do a little research and find, like, you know the last five voice winners and go see what their Spotify's look like. This is different. There's a lot of people that are on there and then they're off and then they're gone. And they're having a real hard time getting an audience because they're not putting a marketing plan together, which is, Dave, what you just explained, right? You're just like, okay, here's what the contract says. I can't put out these videos until 30 days, which is, by the way, I feel like also really strange for the network, right? Because I remember when Wilkes was on The Voice, and I couldn't believe in the contract that they're like discouraging the artists reaching out to. I mean, there was 17,000 hashtags for Wilkes, and I'm like, why doesn't, if they're going to have a freaking label, and the idea is to get these people to go through the funnel and come out on the end with the label, why the hell aren't they connecting with those people, 17,000 people who raised their hands that I love this artist? Like, why aren't you collecting that data? And the lawyers are like, no, we can't do that. This is network television. Like, they still don't fully get it, even though Hollywood is farther ahead than the music industry on the transformation to digital, the digital platform, but um man, I love that. And then you had so you got how many subscribers on your YouTube channel now? 360,000. So you're monetizing on that. Wow. Say that one more time. Yeah. So that sounds like an admin thing, huh? They just got all the admin channels, so you were collecting from the I mean, there's a lot of what they call black box accounts, right? I think I think Spotify is close to $1 billion in black box money. This is money that Spotify has collected and legally has to keep in an account, but doesn't know where to send it because the admin isn't right, right? So they don't know who to send it to. And the thing, like I think most indie artists understand this from a publishing angle, but they don't apply it to the digital angle. Like in publishing, when you have, let's say you're a BMI artist or you're an ASCAP artist or whatever, like they understand that they have to set up a publishing company, even if they don't have a publishing deal, they have to set up a publishing company at the PRO because they're going to separate the money that comes in into two different buckets, whether you need it or not, you know, and so you don't get access to the other half of the money unless you know to set up a publishing company. And you get, if you don't have a publishing deal, then you own the publisher share, but you don't collect a publisher share unless you got a publishing, unless that admin is set up and you can, and then they know where to send the money. Well, it's the same with digital. Yeah. Exactly. And on the digital, it's the same thing, right? So you've got, you know, the mechanicals, you've got the publishing, you've got there's you know, there's something different you have to do with the Canadian PRO because their onboarding system is still written paper, it's not digital or whatever. So Canada is not reciprocal with ASCAP and CSAC and BMI on certain things, right? So there's money that can be left there unless you know you've got to set up an account with the Canadian PRO, and then all the different countries have what they call CMOs, right? That they're collecting all the money on all these different countries. A lot of them are reciprocal, so I think like a whole lot of the European countries are. If you do one, they're all together. But you know, somebody's got to do all that admin, or that money goes into an account and they don't know where to send it, you know. And so that's huge. I mean, and so you had this company from Sweden, you say tap in, and they're like, hey, we know there's a whole lot of money that you're making that you're not getting, and we can tap into that for a percentage, and you're happy as oh man, that's amazing, dude. Yeah, they did the right thing. Yeah. Mhm. That's right. Yeah. 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 Mhm. Yeah. Oh, man, I love that. Like, let me ask you a question. So between what was the lesson that you've I wanna figure out how to phrase this question. What prompted you to be proactive about the videos and everything after The Voice? Was there something that you learned from AGT and the exposure that you had there that made you when you finally said yes, when they said, "We'll let you pick your songs, we'll stay out of your way, and you can do you on the show," where you also said, "Okay, now I'm gonna load up these guns." Like, how did you figure that out? Most artists don't. Like, what was the impetus of that? Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Did they know about it? Did they even know? Yeah. Mhm. I guess they didn't like it. Well, the other part of this story that I like that I remember from our first conversation, Dave, at BMW's house was, um, I think there's, a lot of people because you're talking about you change the mindset in your head, right? You're like, at first I thought I couldn't afford it. Then I realized I couldn't afford not to. So you went from I can't afford it, so I'm just going to stop thinking about it, or start lamenting it, right? You switched from that to I got to figure out a way to make this happen, and that's what you did with the videographer guy. You said you found this videographer guy so most artists can be like, well, a music video, that's, who can do a bunch of music videos? That's expensive. I can't afford that. And that's the end of the conversation. But you're like, you found these guys that were up and coming. And I think if I remember the story right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but they're like, hey man, we'll do it with you for $500 a song, and you're like, all right. And so that was still a lot of money for you right then, but you scraped that out of the sofa cushions and everything like that, did everything you had to do to make that happen. You go and you make the videos. Now you said you go back to those guys and they're charging what, like 3 to 5 grand a video, right? Like their star rose too, and you both came up together. Is that accurate? Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. I'd be interested in knowing that company. Like, give me give me that information. Yeah. Mhm. I love that, dude. That's a great story, man. Dave, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. I think there's so many lessons in there and format mom. Yeah, and the other thing is you have to be willing to fail. I mean, you went on AGT, and if you look at what happened on AGT, like in terms of dropping the ball, right, versus how you took another exposure opportunity with the voice and what you ran with the ball there. You could say AGT was in a lot of ways like a failure, right? Because number one, you weren't branding yourself right. You were singing all these weird songs and you said you didn't feel good about it. And number two, you didn't understand how to take advantage of the exposure. But you left that situation going, okay, we can do better. Like I know I can do better. And then you learn, and then you did it. And again, here's a situation where you know what you got to do, and you see this guy doing the thing with the t-shirts, but that still took balls to go out there and spend 5 grand on 10 videos and go, I hope sure as hell hope this is gonna pay off. You know what I mean? Like you don't know when that's gonna happen. You have no idea, but you swung for the fences and you did everything you could to be as smart about the money up front as you could by getting those tens locked in at 500 a piece, and they needed that 5 grand right then and there, so they were happy to do that. So that was a great swap. But then and then it takes off. You know what I mean? But it doesn't happen unless you got the balls to try to do that. And I don't know if you do that without going through the experience before with AGT and being like, man, like if yeah. Yeah. Yeah, or you're afraid of it. You're self-sabotaging, maybe something. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, music. I think you're right about Tim Nichols said it's like the real ones don't choose music, music chose them. And that's what you got to go. I think that's the perfect way to button this up. I mean, that's just the most eloquent summarization I could think of. What tell us about, you got a release coming out on the 19th, right? Yeah, it'll air on the 23rd. Yeah, so this came out on the 19th. Mhm. Right on, brother. Well, congratulations. I love that, man. I mean, listen, this is a lot of hard work. It doesn't happen by accident. And I love your recognition of the difference between, market penetration and exposure. And you really, really, I think you squeezed every ounce of positivity out of your experiences on AGT and The Voice, and parlayed that into a career that's making you a good living for your wife and your little baby and yourself. So congratulations on that. Mm. There you go. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of another Killer Climb episode. Dave, where can everybody find you? Now accepting donations. If you really like the story, buy me a coffee, right? Buy me a coffee. All right, guys. Well, join the clown community, follow the podcast, and tell a friend about it. We'll see you next week. This podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.